Hello, I'm going to present a work called Modeling of Fluid Transients into Viscoelastic Compliant Pipes. My name is Douglas Monteiro Andrade. I'm from the graduate program of Mechanical Engineering of Universidade Federal Fluminense. This work is co-authored by Professor Felipe Bastos de Freitas Achide, also from the same university. So it's really good to start a presentation like that with a justification. So fluid transients are generated by abnormal and normal operations in pipelines, but they just not happen. Major concerns about these flows is caused by the appearance of larger pressure loads than those found in the static regime, and the magnitude of the pressure loads and their attenuation and dispersion depends on the fluid and flow nature and the mechanical response of the tube. So an accurate analysis to the design of safe pipelines is conditioned to the joint description of all these aspects. Just here is an example of a tragedy that happens in Russia in a hydropower plant, and the onset of this destruction was a uncontrolled fluid transient. So, historically speaking, some effects, known effects that happen in the transient flow were disregarded because of the complexity of the modeling. It was, for example, an elasticity of the compliant pipe, for example, viscoelasticity, mechanical behavior of the pipe, fluid transient friction. But those phenomena, effects, are known to add dispersive and dissipative effects on the fluid pipe system. So just to introduce an example of that, we will see in the next slides. For example, the analysis of the fluid. Classically, they use the quasi-steady friction modeling. That's what that means. That means that they use the same equation for fully developed flows to model the transient flow. For the same equation of friction of a fully developed flow to model the transient friction. But as you can see here in the figure in the right, of the pressure response by time, the comparison between the experimental data and this modeling reveals that this kind of modeling overestimates the pressure, and the pressure response are not in phase with the experimental data. And why that happens? Because this kind of modeling can see local and two-dimensional effects that happens on the velocity profile during the transient. For example, you can see this left figure here. Here is the velocity profile before the transient, and here is the velocity profile after the beginning of the transient. So it seems to appear velocity gradients next to the wall, even though the average velocity of the flow is new. So as the quasi-steady friction just is based on the average velocity of the flow, it can't see this friction that is happening here next to the wall. So depending on the type of application, tubes are made of different materials that giving rise to different mechanical responses. For example, typical industrial pipe systems are made of steel of different carbon contents, and this kind of pipe falls into the category of linear elastic behavior, mechanical response. In sanitary sewer and water supply pipes are constantly made of PVC or polyethylene that falls in the category of viscoelastic mechanical response. So depending on the application, different response of the tube are actually happening. And what is the influence of that on the transient? This work will just give a glance of this effect. So the main goal of this work actually is a conception of a transient flow modeling in which both the transient friction and viscoelasticity are taken into account. How? A thermodynamic consistent transient friction model for the fluid developed previously by one of the authors, and to treat the viscoelasticity of the pipe, we will use the thermodynamic of irreversible process with internal variables. So we will take slowly to get all the details of this model. So first, the consequences. We will see the influence, not just the transient friction in the during the transient flow, but also the influence of the viscoelasticity in the mechanism of the fluid transit. And as the model is based on a solid thermodynamic framework, we will be capable of computing the dissipation of the fluid on the fluid and on the pipe. And that is kind of, I think it's the first time in the literature that is explicitly computing the dissipation of the fluid in the pipe in this field. And that this set of characteristics can be used as a sound tool for practical and theoretical analysis of the for further analysis of hydraulics. So the mechanical model formulation. The standard phenomenon to be analyzed here is a laminar flow inside a slender compliant pipe. The fluid actually is viewed, it's quasi one-dimensional, but it's viewed as a structured mixture formed by structured shell-shaped constituents. That is, this settlement is just to capture those velocity gradients that I showed in the previous slide. In the pipe is assumed to be thick-walled and slender member. The radial and axial inertia is disregarded, and the pipe can be elastic or viscoelastic. So the idea behind the conception of the mixture is, you can see here the velocity profile during the transient is in this structure that I show in the right, formed by constituents concentrically shaped, shell-shaped, and concentrically organized in the radial direction, is just to capture the velocity profile that happens during the transit, and then the transit friction is captured with accuracy. As a result, we can find the better picture of what is going on in the transient phenomenon. For example, the mean pressure or mean velocity. For the mechanical model basic equations. The basic equation of the proposed model is formed by the mass, mixture, momentum, balance of mixture, the balance of momentum for the mixture as a whole, and balance of momentum for each constituent. I highlighted here some forces that appears in this modeling. That is the interaction force between the fluid and the pipe, and the interaction force between the constituents. And we need constitutive equations for them. Okay, if you assume that the fluid is slightly compressible and that the pipe is in the range of a small deformation, in which the deformation of the pipe is into the category of the small deformation, we find those basic equations. As you can see here, it appears the strain of the pipe, circumferential strain of the pipe. Okay. And as I said, we need constitutive equations, for example, for the interactive forces that happens in the fluid, or as we can see here, this abstract mixture, and we need constitutive equations for the pipe. Okay, so first we will explain the fluid constitutive equations. We postulate those constitutive equations by appealing to the bijective principle and the kinematic aspects of the structured mixture. That means that the constituents can slide upon each other in the direction of the pipe center line. So we come with those equations. And the material constants of the model are found with the edge of a fully developed velocity profile and with the incompressible momental balances for each constituent. So with those, we can have a linear system here whose solution are actually the material constants of the model. And for this kind of modeling in which the fluid flow is laminar, we have those material constants that are given by those equations, those expressions that are positive. And that is important because we will see later that that is a sufficient condition to obey the second law of thermodynamics. So about the pipe, the constitutive equations for the pipe are needed because, as you saw in the basic equation, it appears the circumferential strain deformation of the pipe. So the inelastic behavior, viscoelastic behavior of a material of a solid is linked with microstructural rearrangement of the material that is directly linked with dissipative mechanisms. So we will, to treat that properly and with thermodynamic consistency, we will use the thermodynamics of reversible process with internal variables. What is the core of this theory? There is a set of state variables that gives the local thermodynamic state of a material, but beyond the common variables of state of a solid, internal variables are introduced for the dissipative mechanisms that happens because of the inelasticity of the material. And beyond that, you have to postulate two potentials, that is the Helmholtz-free energy to find laws of states, and a pseudo potential of dissipation to find evolutionary laws. And with that, if this pseudo potential of dissipation be convex, positive, and null at the origin, the second law of thermodynamics is automatically satisfied. That is important because we want to produce a model that is always obey the second law of thermodynamics. Here in the right is just a short description of this theory. So we do have the state variables, then the Helmholtz-free energy, in which you can find the laws of states of the material. Then you postulate the pseudo potential of this dissipation, in which you can derive the evolution laws of the material. Okay. So for our case that the solid is viscoelastic, we assume that the inelastic response is purely deviatoric. The solid is isotropic. The model of viscoelasticity applied here is a generalized Kelvin-Voigt model. And with that, we found the laws of states of the material, in which this one represents the purely elastic response. In here, with this pseudo potential of dissipation, you can find the evolution laws of the material that represents the viscoelastic response of the material. And with this framework, we find the creep and relaxation phenomena that is found in viscoelastic materials. So the governance equations are found by combining the basic equations, the pipe constitutive equations just described, and the fluid or pseudo mixture constitutive equations. Okay. And as we want to see the dissipation of the material of the system, I put here this slide because, like, I want to see the fluid dissipation and the solid dissipation. How you can do that? First, you postulate the principle of the virtual power, then second law of thermodynamics, Clausius-Dillen inequality. Then you introduce the Helmholtz potential to eliminate the impossible system, clearly impossible system. Then you use the pseudo potential of dissipation to find the dissipative mechanism of each internal variable. Then for the fluid, we find this expression for dissipation as the material constants of the model are positive. The dissipation of the fluid on the fluid is positive. For the solid, it's clearly positive since because the pseudo potential of the postulated here is positive. The numerical methodology, we applied the method of characteristics followed by integration along the eigenvalues of the problem that are actually the wave speeds of the model. Here I just the computational grid that we applied in this work. So we compare the response of the proposed model with the experimental data of COBEM 2005, in which the radius number is approximately 1,000. And here we put the proposed model for a viscoelastic material and the proposed model for the elastic material. And here is the experimental data of COBEM. So it's clear that the proposed model has similar responses of the when compared with the experimental data. If you compare with the elastic response, you can find faster damping and delay the response. And it seems to be clear that the elastic case is not capable of representing the experimental data. And one of the main reasons of why that happens is because, as you can see here, the dissipation by time, the solid and fluid dissipation that happens in the system has the same order of magnitude. So if you disregard the viscoelasticity of the model, you are losing a lot of information of the transient phenomena, since the pressure are influenced by the pressure responses are influenced by the pressure dissipation, or the energy dissipation that happens in the system. So if you are disregarding the viscoelasticity, you are losing this information, and then you can find that the magnitude of the elastic response is really higher than the viscoelastic one. In other words, the viscoelasticity of the pipe adds to the system dispersion and attenuation to the pressure responses of the system. So, concluding, it has been presented a work in which that is an extension of fluid transient analysis in order to handle viscous behavior of the tube. The model is thermodynamically consistent and capable of computing the dissipation of the fluid and pipe. The interference of the viscoelasticity in the pressure response seems to be of importance, and assuming that the pipe is linear, it's kind of far away from reality. Okay. Thanks for your attention. I'm open for any further questions.